Welcome to the third episode of Arks Trash. For those who are new, Arks Trash is my podcast, so today's episode will be audio only. So feel free to minimize this, have this running in the background, and just listen. Now, I do apologize in advance for some audio issues in this episode. It is entirely my fault. My internet decided to go full bananas. And because of that, there are certain parts in the podcast where RC sounds a little bit robotic. I try to edit and fix it as much as possible. However, there is a couple moments where you might be like, okay, what did he say there? I didn't exactly catch what he said. So I really do apologize for that. And most of all, I apologize to RC because he offered to do multiple retakes. But due to scheduling conflicts and stuff like that, I couldn't reach out to him, and I'm really sorry, RC. I'm really sorry. But I highly recommend you guys to listen to this episode because RC shares a lot of insight into the world of PSO2. But first of all, if you're new to the channel, I upload PSO2 content daily, so if you do play this game, I'd really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, please enjoy the video. Welcome to Arks Trash, everyone. Today we have our final guest, the granddaddy himself, Azelyra. Azelyra, would you like to introduce yourself to anyone who's been living under a rock?
Ever since when was I called the granddaddy again? Hello?
Now you are.
I give you extra points for that one.
Yes, we're gonna do hashtag granddaddy Azelyra. That's gonna go trending on Twitter.
My Lord. Please don't do this to me.
Anyway, the stage is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Anyways, yeah. So good morning, kiddo. Frogs, birds. What do you call your fans again?
I don't call my fans anything, to be honest. I don't have a word yet. We're off to a great start. You know, actually,
I know, right?
I was actually interested. What started with the whole burbs thing? What is that? Is there meaning behind that?
That's actually a very good question because the thing is, like, my signature team name, right, is Skylark, which is actually a very famous, like, Eurasian bird species, so to say. So I kind of like try to keep everything bird themed to coincide with like the whole branding and everything like that. So, you know, everyone who's new to PSO2 feels kind of like, you know, a hatchling that I'm like, you know, taking care of and everything like that. So that's exactly what happens. Good morning, burbs.
So I'm still going to leave it open to you as I don't think you finished introducing yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I already completely forgot. I'm so sorry.
It's perfectly
now,
fine.
See, Carol, like, I'm usually the one doing the interviews, okay? I don't introduce myself. So this is also new territory to me.
Don't worry. We'll take it one step at a time.
Yeah, I guess you can say that I'm like one of the, if not the oldest players around because I've basically been playing the game since more or less around the time of the game's release, like 8-9 years ago at this point now. So I've always been playing this game really hardcore. I'm actually only around 1,000 hours away from my 30k hour mark, which is, you know, a lot. I do play with my team, which is one of Ship2's JP's biggest teams, and we do a lot of like record runs, speed runs here and there, whether it be towards all the emergency/urgent quest clears or some of like the endless stuff here and there. There's also a really big, you know, community between our team where some of our players do really hardcore stuff, and then a lot of them are also just really casual, but we strive to be the best that we can be, you know, and we just improve ourselves. And I tell you, leading a team of 100 people is not easy at all, especially when sometimes you have to organize like, oh, is every player always like really up to par and things like that? But we do spend a lot of time to always help train each and every member. And so throughout the years, I have learned a lot from basically all the best like JP players as well, because, well, I know Japanese, right? So like I split a lot of my connections to some of the very best like JP players around to learn about their class play styles and things like that. So I do have a mastery over just about like every single class, and 12 characters, completely geared, completely maxed, completely everything.
All right. So this pretty much leads us straight to the second question, which is what even got you into this game? Why did you start playing this game?
So back then, like, since me, right, I'm an Asian person that's grown up in an Asian family. So most of my childhood and stuff, I've never really had a lot of like contact with, say, video games and things, because it's always been like, you know, study, music, because my family is also a musician family, right? So it more or less just like my entire life between when I was a kid until like, you know, the teenage years, middle school and stuff like that has always been just like study. I didn't even ever played like any of those like, you know, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advances, or like any of those like gaming generation things or consoles, PlayStation, etc., etc. So it's a very weird thing how I got into PSO2 because there's one time I basically got like hospitalized for a really long time, right? And then I had nothing better to do. So I had my mom's laptop and then I found some random online games and it just happened to be like, an online MMO. And then eventually I was playing that for like a year or two and then the game died out and then my friends that I made through that game was like, hey man, we used to play Phantasy Star way back in the day on like the GameCube days and stuff. And then they're like, man, that was like 2012, right? Where, yo, there's like Phantasy Star Online 2 coming out. And then I was like the guy who can read Japanese and stuff. And the game was only in Japan, right? So they're like, yo, dude, you should probably come play PSO2 with us. And then back then I didn't even have a computer that could run PSO2. So I actually had to like go out and actually ask my dad to like buy me a computer that can actually run a game like this, please. And then that's exactly how I got into playing PSO2.
Wow. That was quite the story.
Yeah, right. No, it goes a lot deeper, but I guess that's fine for now.
Yeah, I think that's all right, just to give people a general idea on how you got into the game, which leads to how long have you been playing this game?
Yeah, with basically since back then. So basically around the release year 2012, 2013, really was when I really started playing the game. And then eventually I was like, you know what? There's no really like any good videos on PSO2 or like anything entertaining that I could really watch because I really wanted to like watch some videos. So I was like, you know what? I'll make those videos myself. And that's also how my content creation started.
So now for the big money question. What brings you back to PSO2 every day or every week? What's that drive to make you want to play more PSO2?
Well, I guess like the very obvious answer would of course be because of my community and my friends and my, alliance/team and stuff that I've built up all over the years. Like you said, like you call me like the granddaddy, right? I guess you can say my team calls me like the daddy even more than that, for sure, without using the daddy word.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but that would be a very boring answer, right? Because everyone can be like, I play MMO with friends and stuff like that. That's like super typical, and I don't think people are here to listen to that.
Yep.
So I'll give a little bit more of a spicy answer in that ever since I picked up PSO2, I, without knowing it, also picked up a second hobby of doing character designs and creation and things like that. So I learned a lot about how to like draw, how to Photoshop, how to do a lot of these stuff. And then basically, 12 characters later, I would say that character creation and just drawing and designing and everything has become a new passion and one of the biggest reasons I have been playing PSO2. So I guess you can say more or less I'm a very fashion-centric player who, well, apparently just knows how to play the game very well.
Fair enough. This brings us to what is your most memorable moment you've had in PSO2 since you've played the game for, 8 years now?
Yeah. If I were to say one of my like biggest moments that really made me realize, that this game was like something super special, right? So I had this one player when I very first started that I really looked up to. Their name was Yumi, and they were one of like the very, very best Ranger players basically on YouTube at that time. And then they were like, doing like the Ranger boss rush videos. And I just looked at that and I'm just like, that's like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Because PSO2 is a very skill-based game, right? At that time, like the way Yumi plays with the homing emission, shotgunning and everything. It's like, this is like super ancient, prehistoric PSO2 times before we even had like a lot of the movement, before we had the PP, before we had everything nowadays, So it was mind blowing to me. And I always really, really, really looked up to Yumi until one day I was in like a random time attack lobby and then Yumi joined and I'm like, what? It was a completely like public lobby. So that was like the moment where my jaw literally dropped to my feet and probably dug under the ground like 8 feet under because I was so much in disbelief that actually happened. So ever since then, I really got to, talk to Yumi and like really learn about how they approach the game, how they play the game, and become more or less a kohai to them, more or less, right? So like everyone in PSO2 has a senpai. Like I'm 100% sure at this point. I'm going to share another fun story, right? A lot of people always be like, yo, RC, how long did it take for you to be really, really good at the game and stuff like that? I'm like, any of you guys playing the game right now is probably like way better than me back then because I didn't even know what a JA circle is until 400 hours into the game. Consider that, right? And I was playing Gunner back in the day, and I was just like shooting my PAs and stuff, doing 200 damage, and I'm like, yeah, how are people doing like 5,000 damage? I'm doing like 200. So I learned that, and I was like, oh, so that's how people do damage. It was probably also the second most memorable moment. Like the second I knew that the JA circles were a thing was just like mind equals blown. It's like a whole new world has been discovered. You don't even know.
Well, I mean, that's really good to know. Like, that's very eye-opening that even a super experienced player like yourself had to start off somewhere as well, yeah?
Yeah. Honestly, it probably took me around like 2K, 3K hours until I really got into the like even 4K hours or so before I even got to like, getting really, really, really good at the game, to be honest. A lot of my time back then was just more or less just experimenting and just like trying to find out things because we didn't know anything. Because the game was fresh at that point, right? Nobody knew about the mag stuff. Nobody knew about any of the math stuff. Nobody knew about skill trees. Nobody knew about anything. And the game keeps evolving. And then the moment Ultimate drops, everyone's butts got completely kicked, quite frankly. And then we were like, okay, you know what? We probably have to look at our build paths and stuff all over again. And then not just that, right? The transition from episode 2 to episode 3 also changed a lot of things in like the skill trees and stuff. Like some classes just work completely differently and things. So back in the day, it was a lot of just relearning, a lot of experimentation, a lot of everything. We don't have any of the resources that everyone has nowadays, right? And then I think this is some of the experience that we're going to be reliving again when NGS comes out later in 2021, which is this year.
We're going to go a little bit off the script here, and we're going to jump to question 8 instead, because I feel like this is a very interesting question that a lot of people want to know the answer to. And that is, what do you think is the reason that a lot of new players are not trying out PSO2? What's wrong with PSO2, or why do players just kind of, they don't even want to try the game? What's going on with that?
This is a topic that we can actually honestly go really, really deep on. And honestly, like if we wanted to really just talk about this like super in detail, I would love to invite you to like talk to me and Cami as well over at our podcast sometimes. But that can be for another time.
For sure.
But anyways, for a very short answer, right, is I believe the biggest downfall of PSO2 in terms of like actual reaching a new audience and stuff like that is, number one, there is honestly a very big identity crisis in what PSO2 is. Before I even say because, right, the thing is like PSO2 is a game that can cater to just about every type of audience there is. You can go as hard as you want to, be like, the super hardcore min-max players and just go really hard on like the raids and all the solo content, all the very difficult content, go for like, the endless speedrun world records and like everything like that. There's a lot of things for you to do. You can be time attack player, you can be, super gear min-maxing and stuff, or you can also be an extremely casual player where you literally just play the game for the fashion and just like play, space Barbies. So there's always like this split between the community here and there where, hey, it's like, are you a casual? Are you a hardcore? Are you a fashionista? Are you like a grinder? Are you a min-maxer? Like what kind of player are you, right? So it kind of makes it really hard to kind of like market PSO2 in a way where, because there's such a huge, variety of people in the community doing so many, many different things, in my opinion. And because of that, right, PSO2 has also been trying to go towards like a lot of different markets, so to say, because PSO2 started off as like super sci-fi, right? Episode 1, 2, 3, you think of that. Where when episode 4 happened, right, is where the isekai genre and everything has been really booming in Japan. So PSO2 also had their own take on it. And well, that did not work out because all the fans that love sci-fi are like, we played PSO2, for the sci-fi and like all the mecha stuff and all the very cool space stuff. And then why are we down to Earth now? But then there's also this part of the community where it's like, yo, that's so cool. It's an isekai.
I was part of that group.
Yeah, right? See, there's such a big like split in the community where PSO2 just has such a big identity crisis that it doesn't cater towards a specific type of audience, but it tries to cater towards everything. And at times also ends up, not pleasing anyone because it didn't go towards the direction that either side liked, so to say. Because like, for example, at the very start of episode 5, the tagline of the entire episode 5 was like, quote unquote, fantasy meets fantasy. And it's like, wait, why are we going back to medieval times again? Hello? So people were like super confused. And then it doesn't even help the fact that, hero on release. I'm sure you've heard horror stories of the hero on release.
Educate me and my audience, please.
you know how I've always been talking about like how long I've been playing PSO2, right?
Yeah.
If there's any time in the entirety of PSO2 where I literally actually did not want to play the game at all, is episode 5. Because number one, the content they made there was like, I don't know how to say it. It's not really as engaging as like the previous contents, right? And then the setting was like completely flipped 180 degrees. And now we're in like fantasy medieval. From like space to isekai to like fantasy medieval. I'm like, hello? And then like the boss is like a giant red dragon. Like, really? It gave a lot of question marks to a lot of people. And also, it doesn't help that when Hero got released, it was so overpowered and unbalanced to the point where it's basically either you play Hero or you don't get to play the game. So you can probably kind of like get piece the pieces together, you know? And then back then, you know, all the classes did not have as much mobility options as Hero, right? Like, because of that, eventually Sega had to like actually come out and do like a huge public apology. Well, we messed up and we apologize for that. And then the director even stepped down for that.
Wow, was that big of a deal? The director had to step down.
It was. Yep. And then it was basically the part where PSO2 took the biggest dip in active player base in the entirety of history of the game since launch, basically. Was right smack dab in the middle of episode 5 when Hero got released. But ever since then, they did recover really, really nicely, to be honest. And in hindsight, having Hero be super overpowered and other classes like buff to balance, you know, tip the scales and really get into the high mobility kind of like Hero and stuff like that really shaped the PSO2 gameplay to be the high pace, high action, everything that it is today. In hindsight, I would say that I very, very much so thank the creation of Hero that, you know, it created everything we have today. But in a way, I'm also like, Hero should not have existed.
All right, fair enough. Well, since we're on the topic of isekai and heroes, what collaborations do you want to see come to either the JP servers or even on NGS?
So this is like the most completely unrealistic answer that will never, ever happen, but I would love to still see anyways. Did you know that I'm actually a huge Warhammer nerd?
Really? That came out of left field? All right, sure.
I know, right? But no, I am a huge Warhammer nerd, whether it be the fantasy, you know, Age of Sigmar stuff or like the 40K, like super spacey sci-fi stuff. So, you know, if episode 5 can go fantasy and we have the space stuff right now, that's not out of the question. Also, a lot of the Warhammer games are under Sega property. I always fancy the idea, but that would never ever happen.
Is that the only thing you would wish to come to PSO2?
Let's see. If there's also anything else, I would love for them to have like, you know, collaborations with honestly just more fashion brands in general, because I love fashion brand collaborations with PSO2. Every time they always have like really, really good costumes for sale and things like that. So I really, really appreciate all of that, because I can just go to like nearby like Don Quixote or something store, right? And then just like grab all these like items just from the store and be like, yo man, I got a rappy underwear.
So you're saying like real life clothing, like, but PSO2 themed. Dude. All right, gotcha.
That's the good stuff. Dude, imagine, since now the PSO2 Global is like released, right? Imagine like PSO2 Calvin Klein sweater or something.
True, that would be pretty dope,
right? Yeah, especially the latest one right now. It was Edwin, which is like a very, very nice fashion designer. They have really good jean designs and things like that. And like the PSO2 designs for Edwin looks absolutely amazing. I love the design so much, but I was not able to get my hands on them because they sold out of stock like almost immediately.
Well, you know, they look nice. Everyone else wanted them too.
Yeah, no, for real. I think like real life fashion design and brands like this really should call up with PSO2, because PSO2 has such a big community into fashion, things like that. Like, look at the success of like the Don Quixote collaborations. Look at the Pants and Works collaboration. Look at like, you know, the Edwin collaboration now and stuff. It's so successful, honestly. In turn, I would also get more PSO2 merch as well. So win-win.
True. It's win-win-win all across the board. All right, we got to move on to the next question though, and that is, have you ever thought about being a VTuber, since you already have like the PNGs, the assets and everything, right? Have you ever thought about it? Seriously?
Carol, if we were in real life right now, I would literally just like smack your face in right now.
What do you mean?
Dude, do you know I literally get asked that question every single like stream and video and everything that I've always done. It's like, RC VTuber reveal when? VTuber when? Everything like that. I'm like, You know what? I would say yes, but I wouldn't also. Because the thing is, like, with VTubers, right?
Hmm.
I know it's like a very big like trend and everything like that. I have this like mindset where a lot of like VTubers would have to either quote unquote like play a certain character or something like that, or like just try to be in characters and things like that. In which, for me personally, I kind of just want to be me. You know, I don't want to have people like quote unquote like know me for like the character or things like that, because that's not exactly who I am, right? I just want really just to be like a genuine expression of myself, and I don't think a VTuber is exactly what that is.
Hmm. It's funny
If
you
that
say
makes any sense.
that because when
Mm.
I asked this question with Chrono, he had the same sort of answer. It was like, if you want to be a VTuber, he said that the analogy he used was like, just because you have a VTuber avatar does not mean you're a VTuber automatically. That's like saying you put on a firefighter's jacket and you're now a firefighter. That was the analogy that he used. He said that being a VTuber has a lot more character and a lot more emotion put into it, and you're playing as a VTuber, and you're not playing as yourself. And so he says that he wouldn't want to be a VTuber because he doesn't have the energy to commit all that emotion and quirks and things to become one. Is that something similar in your case?
So that's actually a very good point, right? I can see things from that perspective also, in that you can just look at it as something like super fun and everything, right? But for me personally, like my characters and my design and everything, they all have their own very distinct like personalities, their own stories, their own characters and things like that. And I don't want to be the one like having to represent all of that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you can say that I can create like a whole new like VTuber model for who I am myself, but I feel like I would rather, instead of taking the time to make like VTuber model like that, I would probably rather buy like a green screen and like get like a nice webcam and just show myself.
I didn't expect that reply. Is there a reason why you don't show yourself?
Oh, for me personally, I want people to really just like focus on more of actually like the content and things like that, rather than being like, hey, this guy is like right here on like the bottom of the screen. It can be like distracting sometimes. Maybe I would do that on streams, but definitely not on videos. I haven't really found like the best how do you say it, opportunity or really best presentation methods, because I live in more or less like a studio home, right? So a lot of stuff is still like messy. I still am trying to like look for like a green screen and stuff. I actually had a talk with like Cami the other time, like at the beginning of the year. I was like, yo, Cam, would you mind like recommending me some like green screens and stuff? Maybe I'll like grab like a nice camera, webcam and stuff, and just do some nice stuff on stream later sometime this year or something. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you'll see. It's not that I don't, because I don't, but it's more also because of like opportunity as well, and just
Mm-hmm.
like, is the time just right and things like that. So yeah.
All right, gotcha. So TLDR, we're gonna see you in 2021, right? Webcam.
Hey, I'm not
uh,
I'm not one to be scared of this stuff, okay? But like, maybe if
maybe.
the opportunity and everything just like stars align and everything, definitely.
All right, guys, we got a hard maybe. All right, I tried my best.
Just for you, Carol, I'll do my best.
Thank you. Now we got to buckle down to a slightly more serious topic, and that is going to be PSO2, the current vanilla version. What do you think can
Yep.
be improved in this game right now, and why? Like, what would you improve if you were the head director with all the power?
Generally, one of the things that I always think PSO2 does very poorly, by the way, is recycling content. Despite there being 8 years of content, or 9 years at this point, right, into the game, I do think that like, if the directors and the whole like PSO2 team really did like, revamp all the content really, and just like really work their way towards recycling meaningful and fun content that already exists in the game, I think the game would honestly be in a much better state and not have as much quote unquote dead content. Like if you think of like, say, Ultimate, right? Nobody even runs Ultimate anymore because it's, number one, it's a very boring style, and then two, it's not even relevant anymore. Or like Buster Quest is completely dead. Riding Quest in Las Vegas, completely dead. Challenge mode 1 and 2, probably people do for like star gems, and that's about it. But either ways, it's completely dead. Time attacks, not really relevant anymore unless people do like the rankings and stuff like that. Advanced quests, nobody really runs. Extreme quests, they tried adding new extreme quests, but like the old ones are all completely shafted. And the list goes on. And there's like 5 million different other urgent quests that are like completely out of rotation now. So more or less, if like all the content becomes like more accessible, easily accessible, by the way, and also recycled and redone or like reformatted in a much more meaningful way, I think it would be a much better, experience for the current PSO2 players, and also even moving into NGS, right? Because like a lot of NGS players, if they're like, oh, I like NGS, let's go try PSO2, and then they port into PSO2 with their NGS stuff, and it's like, well, I guess there's literally nothing to do except wait in the lobby for 2 hours for another urgent to pop up. And it's like not all urgents are like you want to run them either, right? Because if you really even think about like the seasonal quests, right? It's like, do you really want to run around in a circle and do literally absolutely nothing for like 30 minutes and just like brain dead it? That's honestly not really fun and meaningful content, in my honest opinion. You probably get my point.
Yeah, I do. There are so many urgent quests that I don't do anymore. I'm just like, I don't want to do that, so I just sit out. And yeah, I totally get what you mean.
The thing is, like, with content, like, we already seen, like, they can recycle content in a meaningful way. Like, for example, Divide Quest is probably one of, if not the best additions to the game ever, because Divide Quest allows you to go through just about every piece of content in the game, or like stuff like Endless, where you get like a piece of every single type of content, where you get to know all like the small bosses into the big bosses, and you just have to know all the strategies and just the way to beat them, right? In which normally you would never ever even think of, because they normally would just melt in their natural environment per se.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's actually a very fair point. I do agree that even on the global server, there is a lot of dead content already. Like, no one does Advanced Quest anymore. Everyone hates Buster Quest. And
exactly.
Yeah, Extreme Quest is only used for Meseta farm for free-to-play players. And that's about it. There's a lot of dead content. I do agree with that.
Yeah, it's like if you really think about it, right? PSO2, it's like, man, it's a grandeur, like 8-year game. You would think there would be a lot more like active content in an 8-year game. Like, yes, the content is all there, but what's the point if like 70% of it is all dead content?
Yeah. All right. So now we can talk about something that's more fun or something more positive, and that would be New Genesis is coming out soon. What do you think will happen? Like, what are you looking forward to first of New Genesis?
You know, if there's anything to take from like this entire interview that you've been doing with me so far, what do you think is the first thing that I'm gonna do in New Genesis?
I don't know. I'm gonna run around, explore, and just mess around. That's what I'm gonna be doing for sure.
Now, see, the time that you're exploring, you'd probably be exploring for like 2 weeks before I even come out of the salon.
Oh no, right. I know. You're gonna be with that character creation. You're gonna be messing around, taking screenshots, posting it on Twitter.
Carol, 12 characters.
True.
12 characters.
Are you gonna fix all 12 characters meticulously and spend like a day or two on each character?
It's NGS. We gotta do it, man.
Fair enough.
Believe it, my community, like my chat has been memeing me for the like a very long time now that like, you know, the first like 1 or 2 months of RC streams is gonna be salon. There's not gonna be content.
Right. It's gonna be like, what's the most fastest way to level up? I don't know. I haven't left the salon yet.
I know, right?
It's gonna be amazing.
It's like one of those things. It's like one of those things where I think about it and it's like, that's sad, but true.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll make a very entertaining stream. Are you going to be streaming NGS when this comes out?
Oh, definitely. There is a very big opportunity right now where there is the NGS closed beta in Japan, which if you were to get into the beta, right, they would actually clone 1-to-1 your account from the regular PSO2 to the NGS beta. So say if I got into that already, I can just dabble around with the character creator first, so I can actually do the content when NGS officially releases. Big brain.
Yeah, that is big brain. Maybe you can even save the preset and save that file somewhere, so when it does come out, you can just paste it in.
Exactly. That can be all done, you know, off or on camera. Depends on like whether I even get into the beta or not, right?
Yeah.
And also if they allow us to like create content for the beta. So that's something that has to be asked. In which the period for the beta actually just ended last week. So we're still waiting for results of like, are we going to get into the beta or not?
Okay. So the sign up period has ended already, right? So now it's just waiting for responses. Nice.
They're taking 50,000 players, by the way.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Are you confident that you'll be in?
Knowing my luck from PSO2 and not getting any good drops at all, probably not, but
Send a ticket and be like, I'm a content creator. I'm the granddaddy of PSO2. Maybe they'll give you access, you know? Fair
so
enough.
yeah, maybe I will take up your advice and be like, hey, wink wink nudge nudge.
Yeah, dude, because I feel like if you were allowed to like make content for it, that's definitely a market that we want, right? Because like players like
100%.
myself, you know, I didn't sign up to the beta because I don't live in Japan and I respect the rules. But you know, we're thirsty for knowledge. We want to see NGS. We want to see people playing it. So
exactly.
So you know, you could fill that void with the beta if you get in, and just hopefully they let us make content about it. They should.
Yep.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
No, but the thing is, this is a closed beta though. So
yeah, but
I don't know exactly like what they're trying to do and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
there will be another beta, like a big open beta, like after the closed beta.
I'm hoping that the big open one will allow global players as well, because that way we can also get a taste of, you know, how this game is gonna be. All right. Well, you know, we've been recording for quite some time. It's been 40 so minutes, so we're probably gonna wrap things up now. And I'm just gonna open the floor to Azelyra to say whatever you want to say, do whatever plugs you want. The floor is all yours.
Honestly, if there's any plugs I'd like to do, that would be plugging for Kero, right? Because like you're the one reaching out to me, right? Normally I'm the one reaching out to people because ever since PSO2 came global, I've always been the one like reaching out to a lot of other content creators that were interested in PSO2 because I wanted to create, you know, meaningful content that can help bridge their like, you know, the other audiences into PSO2 and also giving like a very nice lead for like the other content creator to really have a nice bridge to get into the PSO2 community and like have like the good knowledge and information and everything that's needed basically. So if you've been watching my stuff ever since like way back then, you see I've been interviewing people like, you know, Brian, JC, even Cammy too and stuff. Like when they were still completely new to PSO2, like I was the one reaching out to everyone. So yeah, this is probably like, if not the first time I did get reached out to by this guy right here. So I'd like to just say thank you.
You're most welcome. But is this an open invitation for everyone else to reach out to you and be like, hey, you know, maybe a collab here and there?
Never been out of the question to begin with, so.
All right, you heard it here, content creators. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Go reach out to RC over here and see if he wants to collab with you. Maybe an interview on, you know, some tips and tricks on how to play Rod Phantom. You know, that's your main, right? That'd be something interesting to ask
More
you
or less,
about.
yeah. There's a lot of like things and nuances, and there's also a lot of things I also don't show on like videos or streams as well, because some of the stuff I do with my team is like extremely like tedious, hardcore stuff, or like super, you know, weird things that is just like, you know, I don't think that's going to be super entertaining.
That is actually something that a lot of you guys don't know. RC is actually a super hardcore player, but he just doesn't show it on camera. On camera, you know, he's super chill, laid back, but off camera, he's a sweaty tryhard.
Sweaty tryhard, spelled with a T-R-I, by the way. Sweaty tryhard.
Oh my goodness, that's the next level. All right, thank you for your time, RC. I will leave all of your socials in the description below, so if you guys want to send him some love, please check out his YouTube channel, his Twitch, his Twitter, so forth and so on, all that jazz. All right, RC, thanks again. Thank you very much.
Yep, no, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much.
And that concludes the 3rd episode of Arks Trash. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If the audio issues really annoyed you, type please Kero in the comment section below, and I will know that I have royally messed up. But don't worry, in the future videos, I have fixed the issue. It was just my ISP doo-dooing me really hard. And yeah, so I managed to fix that. In next week's episode, we will have GM Custom. So for those who stuck around, now you guys know who's next. Anyway, hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.
What can I say except you're welcome?